Hi, the Mudbrooker here. I have finally gotten around to making my video on restoring cast aluminum cookware. Now, cast aluminum is nothing new. We'll get into that in just a little bit, but before we get underway, I'd like to thank my channel members. S.W. Wheatley 27, Loretta Comer, Billy Lee Lawhan, The Needy Homesteader, Me and You Acres, Rachel Tremblay, Greg Boone, Fred Revels, Mr. Smith's Kitchen, Judy James, Mike Newby, Rich Miller, Mogul Smoke, and our newest member, Diana Harper. In your honor, I'm going to have a little glass of grog. I greatly appreciate the support you've been giving me, especially since I haven't really done a whole lot lately to make it worth your while. Hopefully that'll change. One of the benefits of membership is the channel members will get to see this video a couple of days before everybody else does. I also have a members only Facebook page where I sometimes do special giveaways, things like that. And if you feel so inclined, feel free to join or just like and subscribe. It won't cost you nothing to do that. At any rate, here's to you guys. I greatly appreciate your support. Like I was saying, cast iron cookware is nothing new. It's been around since the late 1800s, and both Griswold and Wagner made cast aluminum cookware alongside their cast iron pretty much from the beginning of both companies. What I have here is mostly Wagner, so I'll kind of focus on that. Early on with Wagner, they used the same patterns for their cast aluminum as they did their cast iron. Just an aluminum and an iron version of the same pot. In this case it's a Dutch oven sort of pot, but it's kind of hard to see on this right now. That has what's called a arc straight logo on it. That came out in about 1910 or so, but it also, it's really hard to see, has a 4-digit catalog number. So that means this was made after about 1920, but they used an older style of logo and an older style of pattern. They made this particular style of Dutch oven from the early 1890s. And this is one of the things we'll be cleaning up and trying to get restored a bit. Now later on, they also made cast iron skillets. They made them from the about 1895 or so on. They used to have a heat ring, but in the 1920s, like this one, they started with the smooth bottom. Actually, they used the smooth bottom. That's my dog scratching himself against the door. Anyway, they started using the smooth bottom style on the aluminum pans before they did their cast iron ones, and this one's from the 1920s. Nice little skillet. In the 1930s, Wagner came out with a line they called Cookall, spelled with a K. This is a hammered, finished Dutch oven. Has a lid, which needs a bit of work. But they started with these in the 30s. But the aluminum ware that Wagner is most famous for is their Magnalite. They started these in the late 1930s, early 1940s. And Magnalite is actually a brand name of the aluminum and magnesium alloy that they used for their cast aluminum of this type. And they started to use different designs, a lot more modern looking designs, and some of them are really interesting designs. This is, as you can see, a skillet with a lid. It's a little bit different than their cast iron version. And like I said, they started getting some really interesting and really beautiful designs with their Magnalite ware. They continued making that up into the 1970s. Now, restoring cast iron is restoring cast aluminum rather, I know I'm going to keep getting those confused, is a bit different than restoring cast iron. For example, you cannot use lye or regular oven cleaner on cast aluminum. Aluminum reacts violently with lye, so do not try and put these in a lye bath or spray them with the regular yellow cap heavy duty oven cleaner, because bad things will happen and you don't want that to happen. I've experimented with a few different products for trying to get heavy buildup off of cast aluminum, and I found one that works really well, and I'll show that to you in a bit. Most cast aluminum, but not all, was highly polished. It would have a nice mirror finish, a really bright polished finish. Now this, other than getting the stuff off the bottom, I don't think I'm going to do much, if anything, with the outside of it. It has pretty much its original finish on it, and it looks pretty good. The inside needs a bit of scrubbing up. I could probably get most of this off with just steel wool, like an SOS pad. This, on the other hand, it doesn't have a very highly polished finish, but as you can see, the lid is oxidized pretty badly. It's got a dull, ugly look to it. Other than that, this is in really nice shape. This doesn't need to have anything really done to it, but I will be restoring this. Now, when you have oxidation like this, really the only way you can get it off aluminum is to wet sand it and repolish it. Buff it up, repolish it, and I'll show you how. But where you normally almost never want to sand cast iron, aluminum, you can get away with it because it's really the only thing you can do to repolish polished aluminum. So what I'm going to do is get things set up. I'm going to use this to show you how to strip nasty aluminum. This is a wherever round griddle, and as you can see, it's got quite a bit of buildup on there, and I'll show you how to get this off. This won't need to be repolished because I'm pretty sure this never had a polished finish on it to begin with, but I'll show you how to polish this up. Anyway, let me get this moved over by my sink and we'll get started. Alright, we're over here at my sink, and it's time to start stripping this old griddle down. Now, I tried a few different things to remove burnt on buildup off of cast aluminum. One of the things I tried was Dip It coffee pot and food stain remover. You used to be able to get it in grocery stores, but I haven't seen it in stores for a few years. But there's an industrial strength version called Dip It XP that is available. I have it in a plastic bag to keep it from caking up on me. And it works great up to a point. It'll really remove greasy type of buildup and some of the really carbonized stuff, but when you get down to the really hard carbonized kind of buildup, it doesn't work very well. It won't get it entirely off. What this stuff does work fantastic on is coffee pots, things like that. It'll take coffee stains off of stainless steel, off of glass pots. It'll take food stains off of pretty much everything, but it won't quite take the buildup off of cast aluminum. You can get this on Amazon. It's fairly expensive for a big box like this. It's about 20-25 bucks, I think. But this will last a long time cleaning up coffee pots. Like I said, you cannot use the yellow Easy Off oven cleaner on this because it contains lye. But what does work, and you can use on aluminum, is the blue cap Easy Off oven cleaner. It's the fume free, has a blue cap, a blue can. It claims there's no gloves required, but I'm going to wear gloves anyway because I have a bunch of cuts and scratches on my hands, and I can guarantee you this will sting like hell if you get them in them. But be very careful that you get the right kind. Get the Easy Off fume free, comes in the blue can oven cleaner. And I have tried this on some aluminum, and it works really good. And it works pretty much just like spraying down cast iron with oven cleaner. Spray it on, give it a good heavy coating. Get both sides good here. Handle. get the edge of it. Set that down for just a second while I grab a big plastic bag. This is a garbage bag because that's a little too big to fit in just a grocery bag. Get my handle a little bit more. And slide this in the bag and let it set overnight. There we go. Now twist that up and let her set overnight. And in the morning that should be good to go. Now when it comes time to scrub this off, on cast iron, I would usually use my stainless steel scouring pad, but aluminum is a lot softer than cast iron, and a scouring pad like that, you can really scratch and gouge it. I'm going to want to use a Scotch-Brite pad because it's a lot less aggressive. It'll work good, and it won't gouge the cast aluminum. Anyway, this has got to sit till morning, so come morning, I'll be back and we'll take the next step with it. Well, here we are, bright and early the next morning, and we'll see how this did. Get my bag open here. Actually, I'll set this over here and bring this back. Like I said, you want to use something a bit less aggressive on aluminum, like a Scotch-Brite pad. You can see right away it didn't quite get all of this off, but it really did take a lot of it. And I'll have to spray this down, let her soak again for the rest of the day till I get back to work. Get back from work rather. But this is really coming off nice. Smear on my arm. Like I said, according to the can, you don't need rubber gloves for this, but since I've got so many little nicks and scratches on my hands, I don't feel like stinging and burning. Alright, let's rinse this off. Okay, as you can see, that went a very long way to getting that clean. I'll go ahead, I'll dry this off, spray it down, put her back in the bag, and let it sit for the rest of the day again, which would be the same as leaving it sit overnight. But anyway, once we get this cleaned up, we're going to move on to the polishing part of our video. Put that down, take my gloves off so I can touch my camera to turn it off. And I'll see you guys later. Okay, here I am back from work, and we're going to see if this came entirely clean. Should be, pretty much at least good enough for now. You get the idea of what's going on and how well this stuff will work. So, we'll give her a little scrubbing here quick. not entirely clean, but it's good enough for now, good enough to show what's going on with this. As you can see, if you remember what it looked like when I started, that really came clean. I'm going to have to do a little bit more spot cleaning on it. Get this get this away from under this rim a little bit on the top. But you can see that stuff works pretty good. You know, a lot of times even with cast iron and regular oven cleaner, it takes 2 or 3 applications. This is no different, but it's really coming clean, so you can tell what's going on. Like I said, make sure that you use the blue, fume-free, lye-free, easy-off oven cleaner, not the yellow heavy-duty, which does contain lye. Very important, because aluminum and lye do not get along. But anyway, now we see what it takes to clean and strip the aluminum. I'll just toss this in the other sink for the moment. Let this rinse down a little bit. I'm going to show you how we can go about polishing it. Now, like I said, a lot of aluminum is highly polished to a mere finish, and this is another point where it kind of varies a bit from dealing with cast iron. Normally, you would never sand cast iron. Once in a great while, I have, and I've done videos about that. But it's rarely something necessary, and it's never something you want to do as your first step in restoration before you know exactly what you have and exactly what's going on with it. But since aluminum is polished to begin with, the only way you can restore that polished shine is to repolish it. And on something like this, which is pretty oxidized, it's not rough, it's not really pitted, but it is oxidized, so I'm going to have to use some wet sanding on it. I'm going to start with a pretty fine stuff. Aluminum is soft. You don't need a really aggressive, coarse sandpaper to start off with. You can probably start, if it's really badly oxidized and pitted, you might start off with something around 280 grit. I'm going to start off with some 600 just to see. I have 400, 600, 1000, and 1500 grit. And with sanding, the first pass you use with your coarsest paper will take off the oxidation. The finer grits take off the scratches that the last sanding left, until you eventually get to the point where you can use a polish on it, and we'll get to there. But like I said, I'm going to start off with a little bit of 600 grit just to see what it does. If it doesn't do a good job, I can go down to 400. And I'm going to wet sand this. You want to do this someplace over a sink or outside. You can use a bucket of water to dip your paper in. A spray bottle works really nice with just some water in it, maybe a drop or two of soap. And you just wet your item, and you wet your sandpaper, and you start sanding. How long it'll take, how long you gotta do this, it's hard to tell until you start. But it can take a while, and like I said, you can use a whole bunch of different grits of paper along the way to get something accomplished. But eventually, you will get it down to the point where it's nice and shiny again. I'm going to rinse this off just to see how we're doing. Yeah, I think I'm going to go down to 400 grit and work my way back up. So, but you can see it's already starting to shine it up some. Let me grab that 400. And we'll get you started, and I'm not going to bore you to tears making you watch me sand this thing for, I mean, it's probably going to take a couple hours worth of sanding on this at least, if not more. And I'm just going to do the one side of it for now, just for the sake of demonstration. I have a sanding block, but I'm not going to put it on there because I want to be able to follow the contours of this a little better. And a sanding block will kind of only contact it in one spot. that's a lot better. Anyway, I'm going to sand on this for a while, and I'll show you when I get to the final polishing step. Alright, this didn't take me all that long. You know, I was saying it might take a couple hours, but this only took about a half an hour actually. As you can see, this is what we had to start off with. This is what it looks like after going over it with 400 grit. This is 600 grit here, and this corner is 1500. A good trick to know is when you change grits of sandpaper, change the direction that you're working in, because that way, I don't know how well that's going to show up on camera, because that way you'll be able to tell if you have all the scratches from the prior sanding off. Now, like I said, this is the 1500 grit down here, and now I'm going to polish this. The smoother you can get it before you polish it, the brighter the finish is going to be. They make 2000, 2500 grit. There's finer sandpapers. There's other ways of doing this too. If you have a buffing wheel or something like that, you can do your final polishing with a buffing wheel. And but I decided to stick with things you can do by hand without any investment in equipment. Anyway, I'm going to polish up this part where I did it with the 1500 grit. And to do that, let me check my camera angle here just to make sure you can see what's going on. There we go. I'm going to use this. This is Mother's Maggot aluminum polish. You can get this at auto parts stores, the auto department of most retailers, and it's an aluminum polish. Now the instructions say you take a little bit of polish and you dab it on with a microfiber or real fine cloth. I'm going to turn this up here. And you keep rubbing it until a black residue appears. And if you have to, add a little more polish. Once the black residue appears, you work that in all directions, and before it dries, you buff it off with another nice clean, dry microfiber towel. And you probably see, well, once I get this cleaned off, I'll show you. Give her just a touch more. And go to the clean side, and we'll start buffing that off. Get that little bit there off. Switch to a nice clean cloth. I'm going to take this up here where I can get a better grip on it. And give it a good buffing and rubbing. And keep turning your cloth so it stays clean. And there you go. It's got a nice bright finish on it. If I wanted to sand that a bit smoother, it would have been a little bit shinier, a little bit more of a mirror polish. But that looks really good up in there. Let me try something here. Put just a couple of drops of water on it. That didn't really help. But the smoother you get it, the more you buff it afterwards. There. Buffed up to a nearly mirror finish. Now you see there's some fine pitting in there, but it would actually take quite a bit of metal off to get that out, so I'm not really worried about them. But there you have it, a nicely polished, nicely shined lid. The more effort you put into it, the better results you're going to get. I did this just as kind of a quick demonstration, but that polish really shines it up nice. The smoother you get it before you polish it, the more mirror-like shine you're going to get. So if you take this down to, I used 1500, if I would have went to a 2500 grit and really smoothed it up more and then polished it, it would have been a little brighter mirror, but I'm perfectly happy with that compared to what it was before. So there's the video. That's how you restore cast aluminum. It's a little bit different than cast iron, pretty similar though. Never use lye on aluminum. I can't stress that enough. And hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time. I'm back. I had to add this little correction to the end of the video. I got this Wagner pot all cleaned off, and what I thought was a catalog number actually says 8 quarts. So that means this was made before 1924 and before the stylized logo started, so it was probably made in the 19 teens. That's what I had to add, so goodbye again.